Thank you very much, councillors, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to members of the public, staff, members of the press, and our international community out there, wherever you are. Okay, welcome to everyone anyway. Thank you, Councillor Lachlan. It's off to the karakia for today. It'd be lovely. Thank you.
Me moi tātou. Tue ki te Māori o te whenua, tue ki te mana o te tangata, tue ki te pono, te aroha, ka piki, ka eke, ki te taumata, uie, tae te hoi.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lachlan. Apologies. Councillor Truman. Councillor Lemon, sorry, yeah. Could I have a move of those apologies be accepted, please? Thank you very much, Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Lachlan. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Yeah, just handing over to the democracy team. We have a change in agenda item today. Yeah. Urgent late agenda item. So we will deal with that when. Okay, so we're just adding it now, and we in the commercial nature will be in a confidential section. Right, nothing else. Move, yeah. Could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Park. Seconded by Councillor Westerman. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. Okay, conflicts of interest regarding today's agenda items. Anyone have a conflict of interest on any of the pertaining items? No conflicts of interest, so therefore we will move on to the confirmation of minutes, 4.1 of the extraordinary council meeting, which was held on the 15th of August. Any points of clarification on those minutes? No, could I have a mover, please, for those minutes? Thank you, Councillor Lachlan, seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. 4.2 is the ordinary council meeting, the 29th of August, 2023. Any clarification on those minutes? No. Therefore, I'd like a mover for those minutes, please. Thank you, Councillor Shepherd, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. 5.1. The establishment of a committee to oversee and approve the Mangakino-Pouakani Reserve Management Plan. And we have Mr. Nick Carroll. And hey. Good afternoon, team. How are you?
Good afternoon, Your Worship and councillors. I'll take the paper as read. I just wanted to remind you that we had a workshop on the 14th of August, and as part of that workshop, we talked about two processes in relation to this reserve. The first process is around an exploration into the future administration of this reserve and who should undertake that. At the moment, it's undertaken by council, and we know there have been a lot of discussions about the role potentially for hapu in that space in the future. Second process we talked about was a review of the management plan, and you heard a little bit earlier today that the management plan is coming up to 20 years old. There are some elements in there that hapu would like to discuss, particularly around their values, which they don't feel are appropriately reflected in the current management plan. So we've got a process to undertake with regard to that. You'll also be aware that at the beginning of February, you made a decision as a council to progress that review. We've spent that intervening time talking to hapu and other stakeholders around appropriate governance to oversee that management plan process. So this discussion today is really about trying to progress that governance arrangement to enable the review to proceed. What I did want to do, well, actually, one thing I should clarify, around that first process, around the exploration, around administration, I just want to make it really clear for everyone that the decision-making about the future administration of the land continues to sit with you as council. So the decision that we are asking you today for is the establishment of a committee that would simply oversee the reserve management plan process. They wouldn't be making decisions about the future administration of the reserve. I just want to be very clear about that. The reminder I wanted to provide you was around the different interests in and around this reserve. And I think this is pertinent given some of the conversation in the paper around different stakeholders and representation. We've got commercial forestry owners and operators who are adjacent to the site. Waka Kotahi manage the state highway, which runs through part of the reserve and is adjacent to other parts of that reserve. Council ourselves have a range of Three Waters infrastructure that sits on the reserve. DOC have recreational land that sits in and around and connects with parts of the recreation reserve. We also have a number of adjacent residents who sit on the point, Mototiri Point, right next to the lakefront part of the reserve. We have a commercial campground with commercial interests. And then we have a whole bunch of recreational users who enjoy the benefits of the reserve, both on the land, and certainly you've heard from the campers in recent times, but also we've got recreational users on the water as well. And the Department of Internal Affairs has an interest. So you've got, as with many reserves, you've got a whole lot of different stakeholders with different interests. Our practice as a council has not been to appoint stakeholders to the decision-making committees which have overseen reserves. That's not been our practice. And I guess if you want to discuss the appointment of individual stakeholders to a committee to oversee a reserve management plan, I guess I would just impress upon you to think about the precedent that creates for other future reserve management plan processes in the future. And the challenge of creating a decision-making committee that has all of those views represented by individuals on that committee. And that is a real challenge. What we are proposing today is a committee structure which includes 3 elected members and has 3 members from the hub. And the reason that we're proposing 3 members from the hub to be part of that decision-making group is essentially 2 reasons. First of all, it's a reflection of their mana and their desire to be more active and kaitiaki of their lands that they have had connections with for hundreds of years. Secondly, we're very conscious that Council and the Crown and the Hapu have had ongoing conversations for a number of years now about the future administration of this land. And the objective behind those conversations has been to try and enable that stronger connection between the Hapu and their ancestral land. Given that there is the potential for Hapu to have a stronger role in the future in terms of the ongoing management or administration, we believe it's appropriate for them to be sitting at that decision-making table. Happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Nicholas. Right, any questions? What's the clarification?
Thanks through the chair.
Councillor Williamson.
Thanks, Nick. I'll just go back, step back to one of your first comments around about the administration of the actual appreciate we go through our reserve management plan and some of the issues around since the last few years have been some interest of the Hapu, Turangi-Hapu people there. But you made a comment about the always would remain in the administration, remain in district council's hands. But you also, I appreciate your analysis conclusion, this potential Hapu may have future role in the management reserve that will come to on that RMP.
So there's a separate to the reserve management plan process, there's a process that council to go through with a Hapu to understand what could future administration look like. There are all sorts of complexities involved, particularly when we've got a commercial operation. There's the flow of money related to leases. There's cost of providing infrastructure. Council ourselves have Three Waters infrastructure sitting on that land. So we need to understand what would change in administration or management actually mean for the management of those resources. So there are all sorts of complexities. We need time and space to work through with the Hapu about what they may look like. And as a result of those conversations, you, might well get to a point where you have a decision to make around that future vesting. I don't know what that looks like. And in fact, the hapu don't know what that looks like, nor do the Crown at this point. That's a separate process that will go on in parallel to the review of the reserve management.
Councillor Park?
Thank you, Nick. Just to go back to your point about creating precedents, if we were to have a committee that involved the different stakeholder groups and government agencies and whatnot, does this not also perhaps set a precedents with what's being proposed for other reserve management plans around the rohe?
If I think back to recent years, we've undertaken reserve management planning in Turangi, where we had a very similar committee arrangement, where we had a mix of elected members, and in that case, it was Ngāti Turangi Tūkua had a number of members, and that committee oversaw and made decisions on reserve management plan. In the future, we will be doing a reserve management plan for Parakiri, so the landing reserve down in the Taupo. That will have the same sort of committee structure, where you will have some elected members and you will have some hapu members. In that situation, we may well be dealing with multiple hapu. But this is an arrangement we've used in the past, was used successfully, and it's an arrangement that we will use in the future as a result of Treaty 7 processes. So I don't think we're creating the same sort of precedents in this situation.
Councillor Campbell, sorry.
Nick, yeah, I suppose one problem I had with this is an apparent predetermined outcome, and that which you alluded to, that the hapu would be the new administrators, and I refer to our February meeting minutes, which was pretty much stated. So that has the appearance of a predetermined outcome, but which, as you say, is not necessarily has to happen, because that's the council, not the committee, but the council's decision to decide that. But that would appear to be colouring the makeup of this committee by based on that assumption, and I'm sort of suggesting that the hapu should be treated as, well, a stakeholder, obviously with a big interest, just as much as the campground people. So therefore, I'm just saying, to have it on this committee, one and not the other, is either have both or either have both or none at all. That's my comment.
Let the staff response required.
Yeah, right. Okay, any other questions or queries? Councillor Taylor?
Thank you, Bishop. Thanks for the agenda item, Nick. Look, we've had lots of submissions and points put to us around the makeup of this committee and where we go. My concern is around conflict of interest for all parties other than elected members sitting at the table. So there's 2 points of that. One goes back to our February meeting, where I made the point around the Tongariro representative group, and it's within their mandate to be part of this, and they're not, and that does concern me. Given your explanation around this not being precedent setting in relation to hapu, and given their significant interest in the land, I'm less adamant around that group being involved or not being involved. I still think there is a major conflict of interest, or perception of conflict of interest, that we have to step through in relation to that. And I'm struggling to see how I can resolve that. My final point is in the scope of activity in terms of the management plan committee, that attachment, point 7. Assuming we vote on this today and we get this across the line, I have concerns that point 7 and the scope of activity rests with that committee, and my suggestion would be that should come back, and that is approval of the final management plan to this table, to full council. I don't know what the process has been previously, but I would have assumed it does come back to council.
That question.
In terms of previous processes, I've seen both options used. I've seen situations where councils retained the final right of approval for a reserve management plan, and I've seen situations, I think Te Papamārearea was an example where it was delegated down to. So it can go either way, and that's a decision that solely rests with in terms of creating delegation.
So thanks for that clarification through the chair. My suggestion would be, given the significant interest in this from a variety of parties, that coming back to this table would be an appropriate course in this situation.
That decision we make to that, or we can add that in.
That would be, first of all, you can make that decision. There's no technical advice I have one way or the other. That's simply a political decision, and my advice would be that you do make that decision today as part of the terms of reference.
Okay, any other? Councillor Lachlan.
I've got confidence in the councillors that'll be on the committee, but if it goes some way to managing concerns, even if it's perceived outside around having that 50% composition of hapu reps, then I'm happy to support that change as well. To be clear, I'm keen for 50-50 with the final themselves. There might be some technical steps between before and after going to the minister. Is that right? We can work it out. So just, yes, I would be happy to support that way. If that can get us over the line in terms of council.
Very good. Councillor Fletcher, any comment?
Well, I wasn't going to. I actually just wanted to acknowledge the Ngāti Turangi people, more specifically, I think often of the chief Te Rangi Tuamototoru, who actually lays in state on Motutaiko Island in a beautiful cave. He's actually sitting upright. Some of the decisions that he made on behalf of the iwi of Ngāti Tuwharetua led to some amazing outcomes for our people. And so, and he was of Ngāti Turangi descent, and resided within these areas that we're talking about. And I think as a part of the report, I think Nick stated that they've held mana whenua over that land since the 1700s. So the makeup just makes sense to me. And I love who they've put forward as representatives for Ngāti Turangi, very robust but also young, and have a very positive outlook on what partnership could look like moving forward. So really excited about that element, and then to add on top of that, the councils that will be adding to that table, I think would be fantastic. So thank you for the title.
Councillor Park.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I have similar concerns to that of our Deputy Mayor, but would probably have some comfort in that the terms of reference are changed, and that the approval of the final management plan were to come back to the council table. But yes, just very, very aware that the process probably, I'm not 100% comfortable with it, but that would give me some comfort. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Park. Councillor Rankin.
Say I feel uncomfortable with that committee. I think this whole thing is messy, and everyone has been treated badly, but unfairly through the process. Things should have happened a long time ago that didn't happen, that have got us into this situation. But I just think this is going to cause, it's right in one way, but it's going to cause a lot of perceived conflict. And I just don't feel comfortable with it for that reason. We've got to get to the end of this and make everyone as good as they can be. And I don't think this is the way. I do feel better if it comes back to council. That would be one mitigating factor, but this isn't straightforward.
Thank you. This management plan is how many years? Like you did the last one, or is that 2004? So it's been hanging a long time. Here we are, an item in front of us. And I believe full confidence and you know, people that are going to go forward. It's going to resolve this issue that Mr. Potential commercial leases and all that sort of thing to a certain degree. It comes back to full council to be, you know, ratified. So I believe the people of the have been, you know, they've represented up that have been there for the best interest. So I would like to support certain hapu members, but perhaps to be clear that item up first. Who wants to push back, say no hapu, no hapu on the committee?
Well,
Yeah.
in the interest of fairness, either have campground or and the hapu in some respect, because I mean the campground other people have been there the last 50 years. I mean, either have both or neither seems fair enough to me.
Yes, Councillor Greenslade.
Thank you, Richard. One of the things that was commented on was the original management plan, and it was commented that it was very, very comprehensive and well done. And Jade said that there were elements of it that hapu weren't happy with, and you would expect that after 20 years. The remainder of the plan, it's not going to be completely reworked, is it? I would imagine that the bulk of it is still the same. It hasn't changed, and we're talking about updating the wishes of hapu. Are there any other specific areas that stand out that are glaring?
Look, at this point, we're talking about a review of an existing document. We're not starting from a blank sheet. Now, I'm not going to prejudge what comments we get from the community about elements of that management plan that they think need to be updated. That's the purpose of going through the review process. But certainly, I can reinforce that we're doing a review, not a complete review.
If it helps, sorry. If it helps, I have already started drafting. So I've started looking at the 2004 RMP and comparing it to today. And as you say, there is not any massive changes.
To go through the committee process like you could. Okay, now Councillor Williamson.
Yeah, I too like shares comments previous councillors about some of the concerns about perhaps a clear conflict of interest. I think Turangi has to be at the table. I think it's probably I had the concerns, but having thinking about it, we are just reviewing the RMP, updating the RMP, and perhaps the outcome we had scheduled in this with anybody else. Even on the Māori Tūwhātoa Claim Settlement Bill, even in the event of the transfer of administration, it was actually even on the part section 117, the new owners, administrators, administrating body of the reserve land will hold the reserve for the same reserve purposes as those for which it was held by administering body immediately for transfer. Notwithstanding, there's obviously may or may not be vested, and later bringing it to the land future years that can change, but so I understand it as well.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Councillor Shepherd.
I've certainly had some concerns about the composition of the committee as well, for the same reasons that have been identified, that there is a perceived conflict of interest there. And I do have concerns about the position that puts the hapu representatives in. It does give me a bit more comfort that it will come back to the full council table, but still a little uneasy about it, to be fair, in the interests of what's been. But I hear what the campground owners are saying, that they don't feel like they've been listened to this point, and they are concerned that under this committee structure that might continue. And I acknowledge that, and I also acknowledge Jade's comments that they are there for the interests of the community at large, and I very much, have trust in their words there.
Thank you, Rachel. And Councillor Duncan?
Yeah, I'll just add a comment. by one of the submitters, which I agree with actually. I'll just quote him direct. Good democratic process would dictate that the biggest users of the reserve should have fair and equitable input to this process. So that's what I'm concerned may not be happening with the current proposed makeup of this committee.
Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Your Worship. Look, we're not dealing with the vesting of the land here. If we were, my words would be somewhat stronger, and they would not be in favour of having Te Rangita or any other group or hapu, or whatever, sitting at the table deciding matters for which they benefit from, because principles of natural justice are in play here. You should not be the judge in your own case. In terms of the users or any commercial entity, this is not a question of whether they will be heard, because they will be heard and they'll have every opportunity to have their say and be heard in detail. This is about who sits at the table and makes recommendations back to us as full council. So I have some comfort in relation to whether they will be heard, because in terms of any other hearing process, it's no different. They will be heard and their concerns will be considered. It's only a question of who hears those concerns is what we're discussing.
Okay, so what I'm taking from the conversation is that we have reservations. We understand that. Now that's going to, we can put a additional recommendation here that comes back to full council or ratification or whatever we need to do. I think councillors are reasonably comfortable with that. Correct. So now I'm calling for nominations, please, for the council representation on there. We're seeking 3. Just clarification, does the mayor have casting vote on that?
It's share.
So
we can attend.
Yeah.
And vote.
So it's 3 all in the vote.
3 and 3, and you're a member of every committee.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you. All right. Right.
We still nominate people in here.
Councillor Taylor. Thank you.
Happy to see.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'd like to nominate Sandra Greenslade.
Thank you very much, Councillor Greenslade.
And I would like to nominate, sorry, 3 here, Debbie Lachlan.
Any problem at all? Do you accept the nominees? Accept the nomination? Any others?
Well, I'd like to nominate myself, but is that not on the?
You can do that. Well, you can. You can do that. Yeah. And you, Rachel?
No,
No.
I nominate Duncan if that's the official way to go about things.
Okay. Yeah. So there's been 4 nominations for the 3 positions. They'll probably just go for the hands up situation. Oh, Councillor Westman.
I'd certainly be interested if the opportunity came up.
There's been 5 nominations. So probably best to do raise of hands. First up, we have Councillor Taylor. If you'd like to raise your hand. Okay.
If you can nominate yourself.
For myself. Yeah, oh, sorry. Have a good one, mate.
Numbers are. You got the numbers of raised hands, so 10 and vote, yeah, 10.
Next up, we have Councillor Lachlan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Councillor Greenslade. Oh, sorry, did you get that? Oh, hands up again. Sorry for Councillor Greenslade. Ben.
Okay.
Next up is Councillor Campbell. Councillor Westerman. We'll see.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we have Councillor.
Oh, Councillor Green, I know, but can't read my writing. Swear to God. Councillor Greenslade, we've got the Deputy Mayor, and I've got
All right, thank you very much.
Sorry, Richard.
Yes, Mr. Taylor.
Of clarification, in the event you are unavailable to attend, given that you are ex officio and given my role as deputy mayor sitting on this,
Yes.
where, that's probably a democracy question, where does that place us where I would fit in your seat as opposed to an independent? It's a hypothetical what if I know.
I don't believe it's an issue, as long as we've got quorum,
Okay,
which regardless of what hat you are wearing on the day,
that's
deputy mayor versus. Yeah, I think we're fine.
To deal with the terms of reference for the delegation to the full council, have done now.
Terms of reference, Nick?
Yeah, so I'm conscious the third part of the resolution says adopts the terms of reference and delegations detailed in attachment 1. I wonder whether we add an amendment on the end of that as amended so that the reserve management plan, final reserve management plan comes back to council for approval. Where's the data?
Yeah, right, so
Just preparing that and we'll do it on screen.
yeah, okay, just hold on a minute. So we have Councillor Taylor, Greenslade, Lachlan, Araha French, Maru Maniapoto, and Jade Waker. So are you changing the terms of reference or do you mean that? Yeah. Sure. Right, cool. Amy, how long do you think the process will take? Question, is it?
I would say within, hopefully definitely within a year, but what kind of process, what one are you talking
Oh,
about?
this, yeah,
This,
right.
the RMP. Yeah, so that's the thing is we still have to go out for 2 rounds of consultation also, and that would be a minimum of 3 months all combined together. Then you've got to think of time to draft, so we'd give it about 8-9 months for the RMP. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks. All right, how are we going here, ladies? Everyone happy with that? We recommend the final draft of Mangakino recreational reserve management plan come back to full council for final approval.
Just ask for one point of clarification, sorry, on resolution 1, which is to obviously the review place and make final decisions on the reserve management plan. Yeah. Can we just remove the words after and the rest of that sentence? We should actually change the terms of reference.
There it is. Okay, so could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Fletcher, seconded by Councillor Greenslade. Sorry, John. Yeah.
Can I second that? No, maybe not.
No, we'll go for it. John, so Williams. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carry.
So was that the whole thing or just that amendment or?
The whole thing. All right. Any dissent?
So, through the chair,
Yeah.
yeah, what a voice. Gonna make a comment?
Quick comment, the resolution is actually moved and seconded and passed, but
Well,
You can vote again.
Yeah.
Vote again.
Yeah, well, I'd like to vote against, but with one comment, brief comment.
Yeah.
Look, from my perspective on the knowledge of seeing this, the review of this Reserve Management Act, which has been in place since 2004, was absolutely prompted by the Hubby. That's why it's doing it.
Yeah, sorry, we're off track. That could have been covered in the conversation. So, I just wanted to know whether you're recording against or for the resolution.
No, I'll have to vote against because I just don't think it's been handled properly as well as it should have.
Sorry, Greg, this is for or against or
Well,
it's not a place for commentary, with respect.
Was the place for commentary a minute ago before this? Well, okay, I missed the cue, sorry.
Okay, right, thanks. Did you want that recorded against?
Okay.
Yeah, good, thank you. 5.2, Transport Choices Package Project. Wow. That's good. Yeah, good afternoon, Lee.
Afternoon, Worship, councillors. I'm just going to give you a little bit of a background as to how we got to here because it's, been thrown in front of you at the last minute.
Yep.
About 18 months ago, the transport team, Taupo and a few others met to discuss the links between the west side, north side, and then across into town to look at cycle improvements and walking improvements for that side of town. We came up with a concept plan and some budget, but after a review item, safety review, we needed further budget to do some works. So along came Waka Kotahi with some funding through the SURF, which is Climate Emergency Response Fund, looking at projects that could help walking, cycling, reduce short car trips, etc. So we applied for some funding. We were lucky to secure some pre-implementation funding, which we've used to work on some designs and community engagement and plans. In discussions with Waka Kotahi, probably May, June, they came up with some design parameters that didn't quite fit what our original application was put forward. They were looking at separating cycleways, shared paths, because of the road users for the school transport to and from school. And also they were, so we had to look at a change in scope basically. So the budget that we'd originally applied for implementation wasn't going to cover separated cycleways, shared paths, etc. So we redesigned and then came up with a staging plan. So the staging plan was really to try and secure the funding for part of the package, so to speak. So the original scope was looking at Tongariro Street through to Acacia Bay shared path. With the rescope, we're basically staging it. So the first stage, which is what we're going to be putting through the scope, is from Tongariro Street to Norman Smith Street. And then in the long-term plan, we're looking at future stages 2, 3, 4, etc. So it's basically to gain some support from council to actually do it this way, so that we can secure the funding and we've got a deadline, obviously, for the detailed design, etc.
I might just add the reason we're bringing it to council is that in the original proposal, the engagement plan as part of that proposal indicated that council supported this activity. So to be fair, since we're rescoping that and breaking it into different parts, I think it's appropriate to bring it to council to gain support.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Park.
Thank you, Your Worship. Claire, just wondering if we were to go with the recommendation, which I personally don't have a problem with, and it then loses its status as a flagship projects?
So through the chair, Taupō District Council was one of 13 flagship projects because we met 3 of the 4 criteria. That will no longer be applicable. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to put words in your mouth. And the other thing was, so it won't add any risk to receiving the funding if we were to change and.
No, the Waka Kotahi have actually approved the change in scope, so that's been signed off. As long as we meet the deadline of getting all our detailed designs, community engagement plans, monitoring plans in place by the deadline, then it goes through to that implementation funding approval process.
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Claire. Any other questions of Claire? Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you, Worship. Just a quick question or clarification around Māori engagement. I believe a letter was sent out to the iwi and Hapu for early engagement. Were there any responses, and also which Hapu specifically?
No responses to date, but we are expecting a letter back.
Sorry, just further clarification around which Hapu you're engaged during the process. Awesome.
Very good. Councillor Taylor.
Just a quick comment. I want to acknowledge Claire for doing the legwork on this application and getting the funding. There is some history to this, and also expressed my frustration at the moving goalposts done by NZTA, which is why this has come to us today. We are not the only council that has suffered from this around the country. The 13 councils, I suspect most, if not all of them, have suffered the same fate of moving goalposts, and it is frustrating, to say the least, not the least of which I will be sending an email through the regional director of NZTA to express our concern at what's happened. The funding originally granted would have covered the entire project. It now won't, not through any fault of council staff at this council. So I thank Claire for the work she's done. It was an outstanding job, frustrated by people and processes beyond our control.
Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, Claire, so just looking at the picture, that's not a clip-on to the bridge, is it? We're not clipping onto the bridge. No, it's just existing. So are we asking for, so the original, the plans have changed? You changed the plans, because originally, what was it? What, on-road cycle lane or something?
It's an on-road cycle lane from Norman Smith through to Acacia Bay and then joining up, crossing to the Acacia Bay Sheep Park.
Oh, so this wasn't, because this seems to be the sensible thing to do anyway. What was something different proposed here before that we're changing? Is that what
The proposal that we put forward was for the other side, so on the countdown side.
Oh.
But with the countdown development, we've decided to actually concentrate on the opposite side until
okay.
the development is completed, and then we'll look at the opposite side.
Oh, okay. And so extra money. You're asking us for extra money? Is that part of it? No.
Through the chair, no, we're not asking for any further funding. Because of the change in scope, we can, as long as we get Waka Kotahi's funding, we don't need to.
Oh, I see. So the original reading this, the original scheme on the other side didn't meet their satisfaction. Yes, so that's why we've gone to this. Okay. And is there any benefits from the previous scheme over this one? Anything, or is this entirely, there's no? Because I suppose this is on the other side of the road, so some people have to cross the road. That would be the disbenefit, I suppose, for some people.
Yeah, we have got some projects in the long-term plan to look at how we can cross people from the CBD, so from Tongariro across Tongariro to the Sheep Park.
Yeah.
So that's all coming through as a long-term plan.
Oh, okay. And coming from the top of the hill, the other, well. They just cross at the lights. Cross at the lights. That's the assumption, is it? Yes. Okay.
Bishop, I'd like to move the recommendation that the council supports the stage approach for the transport choices
Councillor Back, second by Councillor Taylor. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. It's clear. Thanks, Andrew. 5.3. Yeah. Adoption of alcohol control, freedom camping and cemeteries bylaw. Bylaws. And we have today in front of us Mr. Andrew Wilson. Good afternoon, Andrew.
Afternoon, Your Worship. Afternoon, Councillors. I'll take the item as read. I'll just do a quick recap of where we've gotten to today. So before I came to this final council meeting, there was a hearing that was held with a number of councillors where they heard this and deliberated on the submissions from the public. Some changes have been implemented around some of the wording in the Cemeteries Handbook after that feedback. And aside from that, some of the issues that were raised by members of the community in regards to clarity and things were addressed and have been passed to the relevant teams. So aside from that, the committee then recommended that council adopt the attached bylaws. And so it is over to you today, councillors, to basically to finalise that decision, if you so wish. And I just also note that the error in the cemeteries bylaw that was pointed out by Councillor Greenslade has been corrected and won't go up into the website like that.
Cool. Thanks, Andrew. Any questions, Andrew? Councillor Taylor.
Just take to page 41 of the agenda, the maps. We've got a map of Motutere and Waitotoko, particularly of the Motutere campground. We just had an agenda item with that and it's listed here. I just wondered, how do we reconcile that? This is within the freedom camping side of things, and there's a whole lot of conditions around that, and yet we're going to be embarking on a process around the reserve management plans.
In regards to the reserve management plan, if the reserve management plan through that committee and through that process, you as council and that committee resolve to place restrictions on freedom camping in that space, then we can do a bylaw review. There's no real issue. Bylaw can be amended to that has to go through a consultation process, obviously, as well as.
So it's just my concern was that we've actually got the campground in the bylaw anyway, and it just seems to be a little bit of the double dipping is the right word, but it just seems a little bit odd. So thanks.
Very good. Councillor Campbell.
What is the comment really? I'm not this. Did we discuss this just as on the cemetery handbook? The handbooks. This was an attachment. Is this to the bylaw?
Yes, it's in the cemetery. Has to do with the bylaw. Yes, correct.
No, I'll just make a comment for academic purpose, perhaps, about the appropriate behaviour. Page 73 of the agenda, and page 16 of the handbook. Yeah, I'm just highlighting that no person may behave in a manner, blah, 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 that is a nuisance or is offensive to another person. I'm just highlighting that could be interpreted, that could be widely interpreted. So I'm sure it doesn't happen very often, but I have a feeling it could be worded differently, that's all.
Through the chair, I can have a look if there is case law on the specific matter. There quite possibly has already been ruling in court on what constitutes offensive behaviour to another person. Through legal practice, my understanding is that there is a reasonableness test, and the court outlines what that test looks like. So that's not necessarily the place for council to determine what offence to a reasonable person would look like. That's a
I mean, perhaps that wording reasonable needs to be could be inserted there. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Thank you very much, Andrew. Now, questions or clarification, Councillor Greenslade.
I'd like to move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Moved by Councillor Greenslade. Seconded, please. Seconded, Councillor Shepherd. And thank you, Andrew, for all your hard work and diligence in this, and the clear and concise way that you delivered the the workshops and the items on it. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much, Your Worship.
All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, carried. Thank you. Right, we have number 5.4, vision and community outcomes. Kendall. And we have just a supplementary paper for this item. Shane is handing around now. Okay, thank you, Kendall. Start the item if you like. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and councillors. Shane's just handed out the feedback that we have received from Turangi-Tongariro, which was noted in the item. But I'll take a step back. So this item here is to adopt the new council vision and community outcomes. I will take the item as read. Yourselves have played a big part in developing both the vision and the outcomes, having several workshops, getting the words the way they are. We also went out as part of the early engagement process with the LTP to share the vision and the outcomes with our community. We haven't had any feedback other than what's been tabled with you today. We haven't, unfortunately, we haven't had time to work with Ngāti Turangi on this specific wording yet. So what we are recommending is that we do move forward with the recommendation in the paper, which is to adopt, and then staff will go away and continue to work with Ngāti Turangi and other parties, if need be, to look at amending wording, and then we will come back to you if that wording does need to be amended.
Any questions of Kendall? Councillor Westman.
Was it just not, shouldn't we just do this once and do it right? Sorry, I think just having it's got some relevant points in it, it's wording, and I'm kind of worried that we're going to go yes and then kind of go yes later with some different wording.
Oh, so firstly, there's no comments on your vision. So I think you're safe to be able to adopt that and to be able to move forward. My view around community outcomes is they are intended to influence and to drive what you pull together through to your LTP. So I think there's a need to keep the process moving. What I would say is if you look at your community outcomes that you're actually asked to approve today, there's one that there's a wording feedback on. So there's some sub-bullets which you're not adopting today, I guess, or approving today. So really, it's actually slight wording change to one of the bullets is the one that's up for debate. But my view and my recommendation would be to enable staff to continue with the LTP process, that you approve those and keep moving. There will be further comments, I would imagine, between now and June next year on your community outcomes and on vision, and of course we'll bring those back to you.
So Williamson, you just obviously thanks. Putting Amy's is this one obviously to go to point 8, say that in her knowledge respect, she seems to think probably the rest will be fine. I'm just wondering whether the rest actually visionary, but also they are values, aren't they? We implemented our vision statement as opposed to a vision per se. Rest of comments.
Yes, through the chair, she has provided feedback on one of the outcomes, but not the actual vision. However, there is a tie between them. They all do relate. And as Julie pointed out, a number of the comments also around those bullet points that we won't be adopting.
I guess we were just trying to avoid drafting in the council chamber, and just to be able to move the process. So totally respect and acknowledge that we've got some feedback to work through, but rather than try and do it, it's around the table today.
Councillor Park.
Thank you, Your Worship. Given the part of the training cycle that we're in and the really tight time constraints and pressure on staff, I'm happy to move this recommendation.
Set moved by Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Lachlan. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thanks very much, Kendall. Okay, 5.5, health, safety and wellbeing report. We have Michelle, safety manager. Good afternoon, Michelle.
Managed to turn it on this time. The report sort of is fairly indicative of consistent trending that we've had all year. We still are not, getting any serious incidents with our workers or our contractors. They're not hurting themselves, which is a good sign. And probably the biggest trend that we're starting to work with is really monitoring our contractor and worker health and safety performance through audits and inspections. And that's been rolled out across most of our work fronts and is having a really good uptake. Not only is it giving us an indication of what is happening in the workplace, but it also is an opportunity to skill our workers, project managers in managing critical risks, workplace risks. So as you'll see, there's two incidents that were electrical based. I would like to say that most of our civil contractors, if not all of them, are very aware that service location plans are not necessarily accurate, and they do manage that appropriately. They've not, been blindsided by it. They do the appropriate controls to mitigate the risk of service plans not being in the right place. So if there's any questions on the report, go ahead.
So, Michelle, you mentioned the monitoring of our suppliers or contractors or whatever.
Yeah.
Do we do that checking or does WorkSafe?
We do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And WorkSafe must do it as well?
No, WorkSafe will only come in if they feel there is a need to do so. And generally, if organisations are managing their workplace risks, they often they're not adequately resourced themselves. It's only really if there's something serious that they feel they need to intervene that they tend to do that.
Just a couple of companies of investment running have been audited by WorkSafe. They give them a couple of weeks notice and they're coming to see you, sort of thing. But it appears to be a bit more active in the market at the moment. I don't know. But anyway, I suppose. Do we have to get a contractor in to go and audit them or go and check?
No, these serious incidents that have happened, these electrical ones,
yes.
Either the contractor or myself or our project managers have put the notification through to WorkSafe. They generally follow up with a phone call, just sort of seeing what we're doing about it, and then they'll send an email through saying, as far as they're concerned, the case is closed. Because fortunately, with these electrical ones, no one was seriously hurt. Had someone been seriously hurt, their outcome could have been quite different. They probably would have come in. But we've just received, contractors have received minor shocks, not a full electrocution as such.
Councillor Greenslade.
Thank you, Michelle. I note that WorkSafe have identified mental wellbeing as a workplace risk. Is that specifically to us or is that general across councils?
No, that's across all organisations.
Right, and so I go on to see that we have offered mental health first aid training and excellent uptake of 64 participants, but it would be good to see a whole lot more stuff taken place.
I did write this report in August, and we've had another training session that had been pitched at supervisors and other levels of the organisation. We started with our management teams and working our way down, and it's been a very well received course. Yeah.
Very good. Any other questions of Michelle? Well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, resolution there. Accept report. Right, I move, please. Thank you, Councillor. Second by Councillor Greenslade. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carry. Thank you, Michelle. 5.6 TEL update. Jeanette.
Your worship. I'll take the item as read, but I will just point out a couple of things on the TEL. So you will recall that you resolved to put the money with Forsyth Bar. Please just let you know that we are transferring $5.2 million cash tomorrow. We're also looking to transfer our foreign currency monies hopefully this month or early next month. And Forsyth Bar are looking after the share side of things because those are held with somebody else, obviously. And also just to reiterate with the recommendation for you to approve today, we are going to be modifying the Treasury Management Policy to take account of this anomaly. However, we don't want to do that at the moment, and we don't believe that it will be out of kilter too much. It's just too hard for us to track what they're doing and what we're doing at the same time when we have no visibility of what they're doing with our money.
Okay. Question, Councillor Westerman.
Not really a question, it's just an issue that seems to be getting bigger and bigger by the day. And we had an experience in our office where money was transferred, a large sum of money was transferred between solicitors, and the scammers whipped it in between. And I just wonder, because they just seem to be targeting any emails referring about money transfers or anything like that. And they're clean little blighters, whereas I've even replicated Waka Kutari's website, and people are being scammed for their permits and things. So just worried about the ability to be able to transfer that sort of money without it being whipped along the way.
We pay lots of money out every month, some in excess of $5.2 million. When we set up people that we pay, we don't do it in the bank, we do it in our own system. We require bank documentation of the bank account number. We keep that on file, it's checked, someone loads it into the system, and then another person checks that the bank account number has been loaded correctly. With Forsyth Bar, we've had several documents that have outlined what their bank account number is, so I'm confident that we have the correct number.
That's exactly what happened here. The bank account number was emailed.
Yeah.
From what I understand, the bank account.
So we don't accept it just typed into an email saying this is our bank account number. They have to provide a document, and we ask them to fill out a form that's through our website through Datacom, and I'm not quite sure if that's an email at the end of it. I'm not IT, but it's like a little system that sends us the information as a document attachment. So yeah, my staff are quite, yeah, it is a risk. I'm not denying it's a risk, but the staff are very conscious of things like that.
What's the process to that? You activate the transfer? Does someone else then do the transfer?
We do it as a payment. So it's not, I'm not going into the bank saying transfer this money from this one to this one. I don't do the transaction manually. We do a payment batch which we upload into the bank, and it gets authorised by bank signatories, and it transfers. We also let them know that it's coming so that they know to look out for it. And I've actually just spoken to Andrew and told him that there's money coming tomorrow, so he's aware that it's coming.
Cool. So when would be likely to get our first report?
I can't answer that, sorry, Your Worship. I'd imagine as soon as they start investing our funds, we'll start getting something. So maybe not the end of September, but the end of October possibly. I can double check that.
Workshop with council at the end of October, they're coming to
Oh, that's actually.
Yeah, true.
Cool. Any other questions of Jeanette? No? Straightforward. Jeanette, could I move? Thank you, Councillor Loughlin, Secretary of Councillor Lincoln, all those in favour, please say aye. Those against, to carry. Right. Moving on. Yeah. Taupō District Council Performance Report, August 2023, 5.7.
So that's me, your worship.
Oh, thank you.
In multiple parts. So first, I just want to highlight there's a couple of changes this month. The first was up until now, we've been reporting back on our strategic priorities. And obviously a number of those strategic priorities reference work that's actually been completed. So over the last month, we've had a conversation internally about what we think might be a way of presenting not only this information that you normally get, but to give you a sense about what's going on in the conversation. End of the day, we're like 50 different business units, and sometimes a number of those business units get the opportunity to present to council. Certainly a number of our internal teams don't get that opportunity. So to be able to highlight some of the work that they're doing, I think is great. What we would like to do is, as this report evolves, is to move more from a commentary to be able to start to include some key metrics that reflects our progress. But this is bad today. So happy to take feedback not only on the content but also the direction. It is also our first report this financial year in terms of the finances, which is why Jeanette's not moving from their seat, because we have a couple of things to update you in that respect. Just to perhaps introduce the front page of the report, I just want to highlight a couple of things in terms of the exec team. You're more than aware that we have a couple of awesome acting GMs at this point in time. So thanks to them for agreeing to jump in. They will also jump in today if there's questions on the sections. And also really just want to highlight that Libby O'Brien is overseas. She was one of 4 general managers across New Zealand to be able to get an overseas exchange program through place with her. So ratepayers expense. She has run a exchange program and is in San Francisco at this point in time, learning about local government. She'll be back shortly. Happy to take any questions on the front bit, and then we'll hand to that.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Julie. Councillor Greenslade.
Just like to commend you on the new layout. Very easy to read, pleasurable to read, gave me all the information I wanted. As a result, I have no questions.
Good. All right. Moving on. Jeanette, you're first up.
Right, you'll notice that there's a small couple of changes to the financial report. We now have got a full-year forecast and a column that shows what forecast changes are, with an explanation down below. In terms of the current result, everything's pretty much on budget. Any differences are mainly timing. We do have in our other expenses, they're higher than planned, mainly due to repairs to Wairora House, which has been covered by insurance, which is in the income side. So it's an expense that's already been covered. The remainder of the variance is really just timing. It's too early in the year to try and identify trends. In terms of the year-end forecast, you'll note that we have increased the rates revenue by $1.1 million. That's due to late additions of when we do the annual plan, we don't know the final number of properties. So when we actually strike the rates, the number of properties is moved, which means we get more income, basically. So that's on the income side. And the expenditure side, Julie our CE has approved $48,000 worth of expenditure, which is within her delegated authority for unbudgeted items for a new cost centre that we've set up, business excellence. And we also have $107,000, which I'll take, it's my fault. When we did the annual plan, I forgot to adjust the DGLT grant budget to match the long-term plan. So we ended up approving their budget from the first year of the long-term plan instead of the third year. So that's the 107, and in the resolution we've requested that be approved. The rest of the report is pretty much the same as it normally is. You'll see I've tried to change up the graph and the capital expenditure. The bow wave and the bow wave plus the annual plan is actually 111 million, not 113. That's now been finalised, which changes the percentage slightly on the little graph there. And that's about all I want to talk about.
Any questions of Jeanette? You, Councillor Lachlan.
Got a question. Thank you for the report. Thought it was very, very useful. Like new format. Yeah, just a comment. Just I wasn't just sure about for the capital investment performance. Just the sort of type graph. I'm just thinking maybe something that sort of shows what the bow wave might be looking like and how we're progressing might be useful, because I don't know if you have timings of your capital expenditure. Might be useful just to show that forecast for the year and how much we've used or something like that. Just talk out aloud.
Yeah. So the railway was only finalised earlier this week or late last week. So Andrew's team have probably got that information that they can pass over to me for a budget perspective.
The only thing is, some people might look at it and just rightly or wrongly think, oh, you know, we're trying to spend the $130 million.
So to the chair, again, I just want to, Jeanette was messaging me furiously to make sure I was here to answer these questions. Because we've spent, you can say the capital expenditure program is about $8 million over 2 months. And if you do the maths, 8 out of 113 ain't great in terms of progress. You might recall in March, I came to you and I said from a deliverability perspective, we can deliver $83 million. So 8 out of 83 still isn't quite on track. What I do have, and so it's actually worse than you think, because I have projections by quarter about how much we are behind on that. There's some quite specific projects which we can now identify why they are lagging behind where they should be, so that we can deliver on the capital program. And I'm happy to provide those as we go through the capital critical projects report. So in summary, we can update the graphs and how they show, but ultimately we are still slow delivering our capital program compared to where we should be. Part of that's going to be addressed by going into the summer roading projects season, where you'll start to see a lot of roading projects which you wouldn't be doing over the winter months. But we still, as an organisation, need to improve.
We might need the worm.
Yeah, so plan versus actual is what we're trying to get to.
Okay, what's next after Monique, Liza? Did you
Kia ora, your worship and elected members. So today I'm presenting this significant project report on behalf of the PMO because Peniel was on leave. So there's no overall big changes to the look and feel of the report this month. However, there's one additional project included in the report, and that's the Lake Taupō Erosion Control Project. So the total projects we're reporting on is 26. There are 3 changes across the portfolio related to the RAG status or traffic light status. The first one being the Bonneville Park during the standards and zone project. So the time is now green. Good one. Now locked in the certainty around construction and delivery. So now we can time for that one. Second one is around the change in time status for Te Kapua Playground. As previously identified, there were some issues around playground settings here, which pushed the time frame for opening out, which I think has been resolved now. We expect the opening to commence in October. Finally, the district plan project has updated the time from amber to green, as a hearing time frame has been extended, putting us into this time for sure. Before I wrap up, are there any questions on the report?
Yes, Mr.
I just wondered with the comment about the district plan process. So why did it go green? Will it still not be amber?
So I think it's more the time frames. I think it's more the time frame for completing it has been pushed out. So it's still.
Yeah, so I can add something through the chair. So what we're trying to track is our ability to deliver on our plan. So if the plan is extended and we have greater certainty that we're going to deliver it within the plan, then it's green. Whereas if we thought we were still working to a more compressed time frame and our likely activities actuals are going to be longer, it's going to be orange. So it's a rebaselining and replanning. So that changes in this case.
That's nothing to do with the performance of the council.
Could I possibly comment?
Okay, all right, then what else we got, Elijah? Anything other?
There's nothing else really we can cover here, but yeah, if there's any more questions.
Councillor Westman.
Just with the Turangi Recreation and Activity Centre, the comment, I wasn't quite sure what it meant, upcoming milestones, access, feasibility, pros and cons for the land lease arrangement, creating possible alternative location for the event centre.
Through the chair, I think that might be, oh, you go. Yes. Oh, yes, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, oh yeah, so assessment feasibility. So I can give you a quick status update on that project to let you know where that's at. So the current plan of physical works was approximately $4 million beyond the original budget. The project had some issues in terms of the location, potentially contradicting some of the objectives of the project, which was to add more energy into the town centre. As a result of a discussion at the co-governance committee, the co-governance committee asked staff to look at whether there was an opportunity to bring the project back into the town in terms of location. By doing that, we wouldn't purchase the land, but we would ground lease the land and potentially reduce the build cost. So those discussions are underway. They're quite positive with landowners. They're quite keen to see us further investigate whether the building can be brought closer into the town centre, remove some of the buildings that are liabilities at the moment, and instead turn it into an asset and generate more foot traffic in town. So that's underway. It's a slow process. There's a lot of commercial landowners. We've had discussions with the two major ones, so Turangi property and Te Papamārearea Trust Board property out there, both very supportive. Now we're trying to contact other property owners and try to come up with a plan that suits them as well as us.
So you've got actually someone working on that.
Yeah, so Steve Giles is the sponsor and he's working on it. He's been fairly tied up recently with supercars, but we are trying to get some other people and resource onto it. It's progressing.
Thank you. Jeanette, just with the DGLT top up, did they remind you of that, or how did it work? How did you? Sorry,
That sort of happened when I was away.
Yeah.
I've got a feeling because the accountant for DGLT isn't my team.
Yeah.
And I think it was a combination of him looking at two budgets and working out the number was different.
I think practically we just went to give them their first payment for financial year and then realised that we slightly discrepancy what we thought we were paying, what they thought they were receiving. So it's going to be
Okay, cool. No problem. Right. Any other questions? Hey, thank you, Madam CEO. Great organisation again there. I know it involves a lot of work. Thank you guys. And like Sandra, Councillor Green said, the layouts awesome of the report, so very easy to understand. Thank you very much. Okay, we've got a recommendation there, and with the 1 and 2, go ahead and move it, please. Thank you, Councillor Park. Seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carry. Right, we have members' portfolio updates. Here we go. Councillor Taylor, you go first.
Thank you. Nothing to report.
Okay, we are.
economic and business.
Economic and business.
Thank you, Worship. I attended the DGLT meeting, and I'm very, very, very excited about supercars, amongst other things, but that's just the best thing we've done for this ministry. A long time. I haven't had that kind of reaction. There's been a lot of activity in Kinloch this month. We had the Kinloch Group regular meeting. We had consultation with the LTP, and I was surprised. They usually attend in bulk those things, but there were very few people at that one. It was a freezing wet windy night, and I think that might be the reason. But we also had a workshop for the KRG reps to take them through how to manage their way through the LTP, and the staff were absolutely fantastic. Everyone was there to support them, and they left much more positive. So no, I think that really, really helped. So I'm very grateful to staff for that. It was fantastic.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. That's
Thank
all
you.
from me.
And Councillor Rankin, Sport Regulation, Councillor Rachel.
Yeah, supercars. That's the hot topic, isn't it? So I went to the official opening last week. That was fantastic. Beautiful porphyry by Ngāti Tauhara. Great day all in all. You could not ask for a more picturesque setting with the porphyry, Mount Tauhara behind, geothermal steam, the motor park looking amazing. The sun was out. It was fabulous. And then of course later on at the sailing centre, that was a nice way to just say thank you and goodbye, see you again. I also attended the big music day out in between all of that. That was fabulous as well. And yes, as Christine's mentioned, the KRG workshop, yeah, that was brilliant. The community reps have left a lot more knowledgeable on things, which I think is really important, especially given conversations we've been having around funding. And the next Sports Advisory Council meeting has been delayed somewhat this month due to conflicting schedules, so I'll be going along to that on the 11th of October. That's it for me.
Thank you very much, Rachel. And next up we have Councillor Karen, Youth and Technology.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, I'd like to acknowledge the councillors for allowing me the opportunity to attend the Local Government New Zealand Future for Local Government presentation they had down in Wellington just recently. As a young elected member, it was actually quite nice to have a say as a part of that kaupapa. It was really well presented, but by the sounds of it, none of the other councillors wanted to do a workshop on a Sunday, which is why I think I was quite happily nominated to head down to Wellington. But it was a really great presentation. I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was wonderful to have a say in the future for local governments. So yeah, great to be here, and thank you again to fellow district councillors for allowing me the opportunity to attend. Within the youth space, there's some great things happening, more specifically down the southern end of Lake Taupō, within the township of Turangi. We were lucky enough to receive a presentation from the deputy principal of Tongariro High School, Charlene Holt, who gave a presentation on some of the youth programs that we're running through the school, more specifically around involving local businesses as apprenticeships for all of the senior students at Tongariro schools. So it was really exciting to hear a presentation. A lot of it's going to be funded through the Ministry of Education. So it's no extra pressure on local businesses, but allows them the opportunity to share their skill sets with some of our youth of the community, which I think is fantastic. On that note, the Turangi Rangatahi have also contracted a general manager, which allows the trustees an opportunity to take a step back and to really look at the strategic direction of the Turangi Rangatahi Hub and the establishment of an actual hub within the community specific for our rangatahi. So it's really exciting things happening within the southern end of Lake Taupō, but also yesterday was a youth meeting with all of the different youth organisations throughout the Taupō region. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend just due to being on antibiotics yesterday, but by all accounts, the meeting went well. So yeah, good.
Good. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, David, it's off. Hey, David, it's off. Go on. Beautiful.
Arts and culture. John, Councillor Williamson.
Yes, Rachel and Sandra and Dennis. I see you attended the big music day last Thursday. Great attendance once again, about 150 young musicians, about 15, 16 tutors. Volunteers at time in the community, very little. Taupō Council is so. And the other thing I did was whether it fits into the arts and culture was I attended the Institute of Golf Society Opportunity Shop 50th anniversary last Monday. On behalf of the Worship and Deputy who are available, so I was blessed to be able to give them the opportunity to say a few words on behalf of
Thank you.
The original committee, Raymond, Kevin's wife is the chairman of the society. It's about 30, 40 volunteers, and Mason have dispersed over $1 million in the community over those years. I did actually learn that my mother was actually the first patron back in 1977, so there you go.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yes, thanks for that from the senior house. No?
it's about five children.
$1 million. Wow. Good, thank you, John. Nothing else? Okay, moving on, we have Councillor Danny Lachlan, environment and climate change.
Nothing to report your worship. Just note that it's announced 7th of June 2024 for Greening Taupō Day next year. Of the press.
Okay. Is that up at Grand Park again?
I'm not too sure of the location. They're just getting you to save the date.
Thank you very much, Danny. Community safety, Councillor Taylor.
Been there. Still nothing to report.
Emergency management and strategic relations. Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, Your Worship. I attended chaired the Civil Defence Emergency Management Joint Committee in Hamilton a couple of weeks ago. From a relationships perspective, the DGLT board meeting, along with Councillor Rankin, we had a Section 17A chat with Stephen Hamilton around DGLT and Amplify. Went to the Mayor and C's coffee catch-up at Baku, the 2024 New Zealand Supercars launch, and there were three wonderful activities on that day around supercars, and the activation on our RTR was gorgeous, so it was a pleasure to attend those. Went to along with Councillor Rankin, we both attended the Ladies' Day, we had races as well, and yesterday, along with yourself, Your Worship, attended the funeral of Mrs. Terina Truman, Councillor Truman's mother-in-law. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Hannah. Kylie, food and primary industries.
Yeah, I attended the annual results meeting today for Fonterra, so it was nice to have the chair and CFO here in Taupo, and moving through to Rotorua tonight. A good set of results, which has made funds fairly happy in the scheme of things. Yeah, some interesting direction of travel coming out there around climate disclosures, and I think it's something as a council we need to be quite aware of. Fonterra is one of the first cabs off the rank, but it will affect all of us. It's going to be like financial auditing. And just as a matter of interest, you may like to look up the Aotearoa Circle to see the initiative going on there with big businesses and what they're up to and what things are starting to shake out. So I met with members of that group last Thursday to hear more in regards to the food and fibre sector that it's going to be all of our country affected in the near future.
Cool.
Thank you.
Who is the current chair of Fonterra?
Mr. Peter McBride.
Yeah.
So he's also the chair of Zespri.
Okay.
He's a farmer from Taupo. He's also the CEO of Trinity Lands, which is a very, very large landholder across the Bay of Plenty, Waikato region, kiwi fruit and dairy farms.
Thank you for representing us here. The CEO of town, Fonterra.
Well, he's also a ratepayer at Waitahana, so
Peter's here at the same time, so
yes,
we can all go.
Yes.
All right. Community service, Wairua House. Have we opened the doors?
There's been a few people through, I understand. Had a couple of good comments from people who've used the facility.
Oh, good.
It's not up and running fully yet.
It's been moved around.
No, I checked with Chris Johnson earlier today, but they haven't confirmed anyone that's yet.
Okay.
Couple on the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll leave that with him.
Yeah.
And I attended the Attached Bay Residents monthly meeting, and Chris from Council attended at 7 at that night on Monday, and just overviewed the community activities, and then came back to us with the transport opportunity with the being able to put some submission forward that Claire was talking about earlier. So I know she got bombarded by a number of people, Attached Bay, and thoughts on what could be done there. The White Business Mechanical Society attended on that instead of September, and also attended another meeting with the chair and one of the committee members about Tree Heights and Airport. Moving along.
Yeah, good. Hey, just while we're on Acacia Bay, I know it's sidetracking the entrance of this has gone again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not one job.
Someone's had it. Andrew, be on your late one home one night.
I think you weren't.
I
You weren't there when I reported that. It was literally put up 3 days before it was hit again.
Sorry, you obviously conversed me out this morning, did you?
No, at the time, I informed the team and
sorry, sidetracking again. RTS space, some construction taking place.
The lights in.
Yeah, it's right in front of the car. Scaffold's gone up today. It's it's the blimp that wasn't lit at the time.
Yeah.
I presume that's what they're doing.
Yeah, look, I haven't caught up on exactly what the teams are up to today, but
so
find out and make sure I by next week.
Andrew is very aware of the Acacia Bay sign.
Yeah, okay.
Strong feelings. Having paid and just put the sign up, so it's quite disappointed.
The right hand one's up, it's not going out. Right hand's up.
That's right. The left hand one was put up after 6 months of
Yeah.
it being down. It took us 3 months to get a quote, took us 3 months to put it up, and then took it 3 days to be hit again.
It's like capital works project. Anyway,
I think the group knows something we get going at that.
sorry.
Yeah, no, that was it.
Okay.
Can I just point out that the old school way of dealing that would be to put it on enormous concrete piles so it doesn't fall over again. That's actually that's what they used to do with telegraph poles and keep getting it.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing else? No. Duncan, have you got any?
Well, yes, we should. Well, look, I've decided to invent my own portfolio. I'm going to call it transport, and I'm surprised I didn't think of it before. but look, I'm just going to one point of note this month. I'm going to continue to petition my fellow councillors and His Worship to take fuller responsibility for transportation outcomes which affect the public. And one tool I advocate for and will continue to advocate for is for elected members to be the delegated approvers of transport issues of consequence, not staff. And this is entirely based on my interpretation of purpose of local government, as stated in the Local Government Act, which is to enable democratic decision making and action by and on behalf of communities. That's all.
That's a green flag.
Thank you, Richard. I met with the Māori Kuratau Ratepayers Association specifically for their catch up with Angela Salmon of the erosion committee. Angela's been working very closely with staff here and really making huge progress in the world of erosion. And you only have to go down there to the waterfront to see what's actually been happening. With Councillor Rankin and Councillor Park, met with Stephen Hamilton, association with the 17A review of DGLT. I also attended the Meet the Candidates meeting at the Great Lakes Centre with some councillors there as well too. And I have to say that the only thing that they agreed on, every single one of them, was that the road between Turangi and Taupo was a disaster and something needs to happen. So that was a good start. So it doesn't matter who we elect, we're fine. I'm talking about transport here and taking a great interest in it. I will also big crowd, yeah, there was a big crowd, there was hundreds. Yeah, no, it was good, and all candidates turned up too for the standing in the district. It was good as well. Which was very good. On the back of that, I will say that I did actually write to the Minister of Transport about the road in August, and I received a reply on the 21st of September, which I had actually shared with councillors, and sadly, it's very timely with the truck going over the edge of Point today. It's a horrible sight to be see a huge truck on its back down the hill.
The logging truck?
Full of tomatoes.
It was just, it just, you know, your heart goes up into your mouth when you drive past and see something like that. Yeah, it was a pretty awful sight, wasn't it? Yeah, it was, yeah. I chaired the Tongariro representative group meeting in the visitor centre in Turangi. We had 3 members of the public speak in the public forum. Following that, I attended the emergency management meeting with Hayley Nicholson at the Omori Hall, where the first responders all attended, and we had a good meeting with Hayley. Also went to the Taupo Music School Big Music Day Out, and that was fabulous. It was lovely. It was just neat. Julie was there, and Councillor Shepherd and Williamson. We had a lovely time, and they made us feel very welcome too. And I want to talk about the fact that Turangi is in the small, beautiful town. We're having a big clean up this week in Turangi. We're going to get our brooms and shovels and everything out and have a great big clean up down there. Along with Councillor, I'm going to bring my Makita blower.
Yeah.
Exactly. Can borrow it. I was along with Councillor Fetcher last night, who was absolutely magnificent and inspiring the people present to get involved in the beautification of Turangi. I attended the Turangi After 5 last night. It was really great. There were a number of small businesses in town that are opening, and really great feedback from all the businesses going on down there. So they're small, just little businesses, and they wouldn't do a big thing themselves, but half a dozen of them together. It just made a great evening. It's following on from the youth involvement with Charlene. I thought it might be a good idea for some of the youth to come along and observe the co-governance and the Tonga representative groups in action for, you know, civic education. Just actually see how it works. A lot of adults don't know how it works, so it'd be really great. So I talked to Charlene about that. The Te Kapua Park Playground, as you've heard, has been pretty much approved now, and I think we're looking at sort of mid-October. Yeah, let's get but these. And finally, I'd like to make special mention of the staff and Councillor Fetcher who've been hosting community events in relation to the long-term plan. They've had an excellent response from the community, and submissions from the wider Turangi community for the long-term plan were 24% of the total submission. So congratulations to our area. They've done really well. That's all I've got. Thank you, Worship.
So it's been covered by a lot of you, but the Downers, did we host Downers? Did we, Andrew, or did they host us to the breakfast? To the breakfast. So Downers are one of their main contractors in the 3 water space. Very good, goodwill sort of thing, and a bit of a re-energise for them. Opening of Waiora House, obviously, community planting day, Ngāti Tūwharetoa Festival, which was unbelievable. Fantastic 3-day festival up at the great event centre. Taupō Women's Institute 90th birthday, high tea, lovely. Bowling club, the coffee morning, the Merrill coffee morning, the global games, the world champ Black Ferns were training up at Onalani, and what wonderful people they were, and supercars obviously, and the Wairaki School. I had to go and vote. Adjudicate their mock elections out there on Friday. So just a few things from the Merrill office that we've been up to. So nothing else, Councillor Taylor?
As I passed twice, I won't a third time.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to challenge former speakers' comments around transportation. If it's left unchallenged, the implication is we don't make decisions, we're not engaged, and that is simply flies in the face of 2 agenda items we've had in this meeting alone. The email I sent out recently as a direct result of the Regional Transport Committee meeting, which impacts on roads and public transport around Taupo, and the commentary we've had recently as well. So I just need to put that on the public record that in fact it is us that makes decisions. We are engaged and we are involved. Witness the meeting we've just had. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But can I briefly,
Yeah, no, I don't want to debate it, but perhaps you can bring it up next time. You can think about it. If you want to liaise with Councillor Taylor, you're most welcome to do. All right, thank you. Yes, Councillor Wilson.
Just.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, wasn't made.
Great job, Karen, as well.
Yes, you lost your voice.
No, I am human after all, your worship. Yes.
I like a cup of tea. Oh, it's beautiful. I'll take you out the back. Yeah. Anyway,
Happy to move the report.
yes. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carry. Right, 5.9. Karen, what have you got for us? Council engagements.
Yeah. And so other than what's there's been some workshops added. So they would have come through to you, but on the 5th of October, there's a Owens Lady Park upgrade update from 11 to 11:30. And then on the 10th of October, before the reserves and roading meeting, there is a long-term plan workshop about operating expenditure. It's been added in. And then following Labour weekend on the 24th of October, there's now another workshop in there for community grants. And on the 27th of October, there's a citizenship ceremony at the Great Lakes Centre.
Cool.
Yes.
So that'll be, diaries will be needed accordingly.
Yes, I have already sent them through, but it's just to highlight that they are extra to what you had in them.
And just through the chair, just to note, the Waikato Civil Defence Emergency Management Group meeting is an extraordinary meeting to receive and finalise our submissions to some central government legislation.
Thank you, Anna. All right, and obviously there's the training and conference opportunities here. So are we happy with those? Moving the Chinese trip, the tenants of the beautiful awards 2023, and that's a retrospective one for that's the picture. Okay, Labour move, please. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Seconded by Councillor Nicky. Thank you very much. Nice of you. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carry. Very good. Okay, that is the end of the public part of the meeting. Could I have a move for confidence, please? Thank you, Councillor Park. Seconded by Councillor